Danny, it felt for a long time in the season, maybe up until September 1, that Paul Goldschmidt was going to be the National League MVP. But he scuffled over the last couple of weeks or so, and some other guys who've been right behind Goldschmidt have now moved into that conversation. So as we look at the MVP conversation, I have some names of guys I like. You have some same names, but you might like more. Who, if the season ended today, is the NL MVP to you?
If the season ended today, I would still go with Paul Goldschmidt. And I know he has scuffled a little bit as of late, but this is one of those awards that you can't really say it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Mm-hmm. I think to have a full season of putting up the ridiculous numbers that he has, you have to keep him in consideration. And that's not to take away from the other guys. Arenado is another one. Freddie Freeman, in my opinion, should be higher than what he is. Manny Machado. I know the WAR, the B WAR and the F WAR, a lot of people go by WAR on determining who they want to vote for MVP. But I just want to tell you that the reason I don't like WAR as much for this category, number 5 in B WAR is Tommy Edman. Yeah. And I know he's very valuable to the Cardinals because he does a lot of things. But if you look at the major numbers, 262, 13 home runs, 56 RBIs, only a 321 on-base percentage. To me, that's not a guy that should be that high in WAR if you're using WAR as an MVP candidate. So at the end of the day, I'm still going with Paul Goldschmidt. I know that was a bunch of just gibberish, but that's just my gibberish.
I get it. I understand. And I'd understand if a lot of people, with all the voters out there, BBWA, would vote for Paul Goldschmidt because in totality, he's having an absolutely fantastic season, even with the scuffles that he's had in September. But a guy who's been in this conversation for several years, who's never won an MVP, Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt's teammate, has been fantastic this year. I know a lot of people out there, well, what is Nolan going to be like outside of Colorado? Well, he's still the same Nolan Arenado, still has 30 and 100. He does that all the time, still playing an all-world third base. And I think for me, I've been an MVP voter. And so last year, I looked at it, and it was Fernando Tatis Jr. the entire season, right, until about August 1st. And for me, I looked at WAR because that is something I use as a factor, not the whole thing. Bryce Harper carried the Philadelphia Phillies in the second half of last year. They had no shot or no business being in the conversation for the playoffs, and he carried them to a point where the last week of the season they had a shot to get in. And I voted for Bryce Harper for NL MVP. He ended up winning his second, and I think a lot of voters agreed with me, but that doesn't mean that I didn't think Fernando Tatis Jr. had a bad season, or Juan Soto, who finished second last year. I just think that Bryce Harper won the award in the last 2 months of the season.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that. I can't argue with that, the way that he carried that ball club on his back. But you still didn't tell me who you would pick if the season ends today.
If I would actually pick Nolan Arenado.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He's almost 100 points less in OPS. And I don't know how you feel about OPS. I think that's a big stat. Yeah, a very important stat. He's almost 100 points less than Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt has more home runs, higher batting average, and 14 more RBIs at this point in the season. So that's why I would go Goldschmidt. I don't think you're wrong, and anybody's wrong if they pick Arenado or if they pick Manny Machado, who's having a fabulous year. It's just, certain voters pick on certain stats, and that's what it is.